All right, hey everyone, it's Rudy. It's February the 19th, the year 2017. I got a letter from Ed Brown yesterday and I wanted to read it into YouTube. Ed and Elaine Brown dared to have an alternative belief system regarding our taxes. They dared to make the statement, "Show me the law and I'll pay you the taxes." They didn't believe there was a valid law that required the American people to pay income tax. And here is their mailing addresses. I pray that you mail both Ed and Elaine Brown letters and let them know that you care about them and you have not forgotten about them. They've currently been sentenced to death by prison. If you look at their release dates, Ed Brown is not expected to be released until 2045, and Elaine Brown is not expected to be released until 2042. Is there a victim in their case? Was anybody murdered? Was anybody molested? Did they steal from anybody? The answer is absolutely no. There's no victim in their case, but the government absolutely has destroyed their lives and tortured Ed Brown in prison. I have no doubt about that. I wrote Ed Brown a core links email after I received the letter because there was a phrase in it and I wanted clarification before I read it into YouTube. I said, "Hi, Mr. Brown. I received your letter with multiple pages. The first page starts out, 'I have enclosed a package eyes only to President Trump.' The eyes only phrase is a bit confusing to me. I was planning to scan and read the letter into YouTube, but wanted to confirm with you that you consider all of the material in the letter for public consumption because of Jesus Rudy." Ed Brown wrote back to me, "The eyes only letter already went out to the president. I sent for effect. I should have removed it to you. As I have said, all info that I send to you is public info. You are authorized to submit all info to anyone. It helps me to know who everyone is. I would like you to send a copy of that package to the president certified. If you would confirm that he gets it, the hue and cry is no joke and by law cannot be ignored, or an immersement punishment will be forthcoming. I have finally been able to confirm that the Vatican Jesuits believe that they own the United States of America. Read the Treaty of Paris and you will find it there. This explains a great deal of all the confusion amongst the Christians. We have already confirmed that the Vatican worked with the Nazi and Ashkenazi before, during, and after World War II. They have been cutting a brutal path of murder, mayhem, pedophilia, lust, gluttony, thievery, torture, etc. for over 1,000 years. They are the Khazar of the Mongol horde. Through rape, murder, force, have long ago become the whore of Babylon. They are the Christian false Jews, crown temple, communist, liberal, Nazi puppet masters. God help us all. Edward Lewis Brown, and then he puts this Yahweh thing out there. All right. President intro, hue and cry notice. So this is the letter that I got from Ed Brown yesterday. I'm going to read it. And here goes. It says, go to Wikipedia and look for Khazar Empire. Go to Turkey. I don't know, what's that word? Turkic Khazar. Go to Vatican Khazar. February 14th, 2017. Dear Rudy and Aaron, I have enclosed a package, eyes only to President Trump. You can see that it is an introduction of our plight. The qui tam action is next. This intro package will need to go out to certain agencies and courts from time to time. This package should be titled President Intro and Hue and Cry Notice. I have sent him this package February 14th, 2017. This is my fourth attempt to reach him. One of these will have to go to U.S. Attorney Sessions. All of this may not be getting to them. I can't afford to do CMRR. I think that's cash Certified mail return receipt. Pretty sure that stands for certified mail return receipt. All of this may not be getting to them. I can't afford to do certified mail return receipt. To know, the more groups, news, or activists that get it will eventually get it placed in the right hands. By the way, Mr. Riley, I think he's referring to Peter Riley there. By the way, Mr. Riley, who sounds like he's neutral, is a CPA who has everything to gain from a big government. Of course he will try to discredit anyone who questions his source of income tax returns. Suggest he read Cracking the Code and enjoy his answer. People are getting more tense and argumentative. I'm not going to enter their insanity. They will just bring you down. Common law is the people's law under the Constitution, along with admiralty and merchant law. The more I read from what you sent confirms to me more every day that the enemies within our government are predominantly from the Zionist, East European, Ashkenazi assimilated Jews, communist East European Khazar assimilated Jews of Karl Marx, Friedrich Engels, George Hegel, Hegelian dialectic, who were students of the works of Adam Weishaupt, who created the Illuminati on May 1st, 1776 at a Bavarian German monastery, and by 1783 it appears that Adam Weishaupt took control of the High Council of Freemasons at Wilhelmsbad, Germany. This is all of historical record, and it is also why when I put up a double-sided 100 square foot sign in front of my wife's office in 2005 and kept it up for over a month, we were attacked by the FBI, IRS, Postal Service, others, 3 months later because I put up the words on the sign, "The Zionist Communist Freemasons now control Washington, D.C." As records showed then and now, they still do. However, we have accumulated a massive amount of supporting evidence and witnesses to support and confirm all of this. We had enough of it at trial in January 2007 and come to quickly realize that is why the federal agents were so willing to do their duty and why we were almost murdered by gas and several other attempts since. You would do yourself a service and read what's on www.biblebelievers.org.au. Man, I'm having a hard time. Do I have my glasses around here? Can you guys read that? bb940822.htm? I hope that's what it says. Sometimes it's very hard to read this. The blasphemy which say they are Jews and are not. I speak of the Ashkenazi East Europe. These are the Khazar assimilated Jews, Khazar and other East European people who adopted the rabbinical Talmud. They are the false Jews. The Jews in America are 95% Ashkenazi. They are not the true Orthodox Jews of the true blood line of Judea. These European Jews mostly never even set foot on Israelite soil and are not Semites, even though the bogus Anti-Defamation League, ADL, Jewish Defense League, JDL, Southern Poverty Law Center, SPLC, and the Coalition for Human Dignity, CFHD, all work together and are all socialist, communist, progressives. These are the Japhetic Genesis chapter 10 KJV. Remember, Zionism and Zion are two different issues. The false Jews who appear to run everything are the Zionist Talmud Jews. The Zion of the Torah and the Israelites of Jerusalem is a place. Read Psalms 132, 13 and 14. The Lord hath chosen Zion, and he hath desired it for his habitation. This is my rest forever. Here will I dwell, for I have desired it. On this one small issue alone, encyclopedia volumes have been amassed. All the secrets have been exposed. All the lies of these false people in collusion with others are exposed to the light, and it's everywhere and getting stronger. The truth is the light is the word, and the Word is the Word of God. Shine the truth, the light, the Word, in the dark places, and they cringe, back from the truthful Word of light, and have nowhere to hide. These are the Saul Alinsky's, George Soros, Barack Obama, Bill and Hillary Clinton, Woodrow Wilson, FDR, Alexander Hamilton, the carpetbaggers after the Civil War, hell, before and during. These people of record have set up every major war in the world over the past 1,000 years, using their craft of language, literature, news media, drugs, sports, hug social sex drives. I don't know what a hug social sex drive is. Oh, huge social sex drives, murder, assassination, abortions. These are the epitome of out-of-control liberal insanity, of lust, hate, greed, sloven, glutton, envy, and half a dozen other things I can't think of at the moment. Remember, these people are deadly and insane. They have acquired most of the world's wealth, properties, land, mass, and when you read their United Nations Agenda 21 for 2021 and Agenda 2030, along with their democracy, United States-2 and United States-1, corporation of the very private European Kabbalah of money lenders of the Council of 300, who put out a report from Iron Mountain on the possibility and desirability of peace by Leonard C. Lewin. This report is a cloud on all government contracts. This is social engineering at its most clever. This is social engineering at its most clever solution to control the populations, always to the benefit of the so-called elite. Also be advised that more Christians were murdered in the 20th century than any other religion. The problems in today's Israel is that the East European Khazar non-Jew apostate Jews from Japheth, Gomer, Ashkenaz, Togarmah settled for material gain by the communist and international Khazar bankers of non-true Jews, and who now by devious means, as I stated on my office sign, the Zionist Communist Freemasons now control Washington, D.C., control the United States and most, if not all, other governments. But they cannot succeed unless they take full control of the United States republics. These non-Jews are not of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob. They are not of any of the other 10 tribes. They are not Semitic, nor do they hold to the Old Testament faith. The people are from the Russian steppes of, I think, Genghis Khan and his hordes. All of this is absolute from too many sources. They know we know, so start looking for the gnashing of teeth, howling, crying, and saging. It's everyone else. Oh, and saying it's everyone else. This is just the beginning, and we must protect the real Jews, Orthodox, Benjamites, Levites. Remember also that in 1948, Palestine had its land stolen from the East European and American Ashkenazi Khazar people, who call themselves Jews but are not. Now it begins. By our beloved Lord, Edward Louis Brown, Steward. Then he sent this 1777 Continental Congress. This is, I guess, their badge. United States Continental Congress, 77 Republic Constitution Ranger. It's got a justice scale in the middle. Collective Sovereign Edward Louis Brown. He also sent a Library of Congress Copyright Office of the United States, Washington, D.C. This is to certify that the attached photocopies are true representation of the work entitled Charter of United States Constitution Rangers, deposited in the Copyright Office with claim of copyright registered under number TXU 42-453. In witness thereof, the seal of this office is affixed hereto on November 7th, 1996. Mary Beth Peters, Register of Copyrights. This is a picture of Ed and Elaine Brown, July 4th, 1776, Declaration of Independence. Of course, that's the same picture as what we got right here. And then we also have United States Constitution Rangers, sworn to protect and serve the Constitution Republic of the several states, the Constitution Republic of the United States of America, and the people thereof, under the Creator of all. Copy my identification card and a picture of present national headquarters. So he's got an identification card, United States Constitution Rangers, Edward Lewis Brown. He's got an ID number. Looks like United States Constitution Rangers, 27 Glen Road, West Lebanon, New Hampshire, 01784. I don't know what address that is. That'd be interesting to go visit there. I wonder if that's the, oh, it says stolen by the government. So whatever address that was stolen and confiscated by the government. Also, I've got a letter, United States Attorney General, 950 Pennsylvania Avenue, Northwest Washington, D.C., September 11, 2009. Civil disobedience, attempted murder, unlawful incarceration, torture, and abuse. Dear Mr., please find enclosed copies and affidavits sent to the Commissioner of Internal Revenue Service on May 23, 2009 and on September the 11th, 2009, as well as the saga of our situation. We write this letter to you with the understanding that you have an extremely busy schedule and we regret the necessity of this intrusion. If you will read the saga of Edward and Elaine, you will begin to understand immediately the urgency of our situation, that members of your office in Concord, New Hampshire, and Washington, D.C., through the Department of Justice Bureau of Prisons, have nearly caused our deaths and the deaths of their fellow agents. Also make note that this entire case has been orchestrated against us because we dared to question, challenge, and demand answers to unlawful law and procedure, as well as naming the parties involved, both through organization as well as individuals. There is but one road to the First Amendment guarantee of the right of redress of grievance. This has been totally denied us by all involved from the beginning of our quest back in 1992. It continues to be denied us to this day, as you can note by the affidavit of fraud and disrespect enclosed. This affidavit is but one of dozens we have sent to the IRS, to the court, and the U.S. Attorney in Concord, New Hampshire, all denied as frivolous, ignored, not rebutted as required by law. If we no longer have redress of grievance, and if the United States government in collusion with all other government agencies continue on this road of official oppression in violation of all the people's contractual guarantees as put forth in the Constitution for the United States of America and the Constitutions for the 50 Union States, then the people being placed in a situation of impossibility and whose lives are being destroyed on a daily basis, and as the numbers continue to grow by the thousands and appear by escalating, they will be left with no alternative but to protect themselves in the most direct manner. The time is now at hand when the change that your office and peers have been orchestrating for many decades is coming to a head, but as it nears its fruition, the restlessness of the people is beginning to turn very ugly. They are now aware who is responsible and to whom their anger will be directed. The tail wagging the dog is no longer working for increasing numbers, and the tighter the illuminated iron fist with the velvet glove squeezes, the more that slips through its fingers. In every village, town, city, county, state, and nation, people are now aware of who is causing their suffering. We can only hope that the many various illuminated members are wiser and much more benevolent than they currently have been. The United States Corporation has declared war on the American people, as other corporations have done in other countries, to their own respective citizens. In Russia, China, North Korea, and now in the United States, communism has been placed. Karl Marx would be proud of your office. Note the self-proclaimed communists appointed as various advisors by President Obama. The Zionists embraced communism years ago, and history shows that both communism and Zionism, as well as fascism and Nazism, were all created through Freemasonry. The Bar Association is also created by Knights Templar. The one common denominator with all of these is humanism. Seeing as how the United States government has declared war on the American people in violation of its contracts, and you are now acting de facto, no one is obligated to comply with any of your laws. You are not only bankrupt financially, but your actions involving your part in the destruction of Waco, TWA 800, the Merher building in Oklahoma City, and in particular the World Trade Center in 2001, clearly define your office as morally bankrupt. morally bankrupt. All this just to get legislation passed to further your New World Order agenda passed is disgraceful. The United States government and the entire world operate under uniform commercial uniform commercial law. We do also. We have submitted the proper documents, but in their arrogance, those in power choose to ignore it. By what right? If you fail to comply to the maxims of commercial law or lawful laws in general, for that matter, you will bring all of the law down around your own ears. We have used your statutory law as well as commercial law in our case. All have been denied. All have been ignored by being frivolous by a bar judge and the U.S. attorneys. You know that no affidavit is frivolous, and even though both commercial and statutory were cited in all our affidavits, none were rebutted or responded to in any way. That being the case, by law, the respondents have stipulated to our averments and must release us and our property. They do nothing. They remain silent, which again is acquiescence. Everyone in a case in a courtroom is a bar member except the defendant respondent. Even the counsel for the defendant is against the defendant, being under sworn oath to the bar. We are just 2 of thousands who are imprisoned for daring to challenge a government out of control. Add to that all of those imprisoned unlawfully for victimless crimes, which under common law are no crimes. Where does it stop? Why do we now have internment camps? Why did 174 armed law enforcement officers and New Hampshire National Guard attack an elderly couple in our home for standing for the rights and freedom of all Americans? We have been awaiting, which direction you, as our new Attorney General, will take. We are held unlawfully, as are many of our fellow Americans, for nothing more than civil disobedience. Americans take this matter more seriously than your office has in the past. We pray for us all, for the future of America, that you will not follow as just another puppet for the illuminated. God blessings on us all. Edward Lewis Brown, 10/14/2015. Then there is a administrative and public notice. Know all men by these presents. This notice is to inform you of the existence, authority, and purpose of the United States Constitution Rangers, hereafter Rangers. The founders of our states, commonwealths, republic, freeholds, and the authors of our state and federal constitutions, hereafter constitutions, wrote that all rights are unalienable and come from our Creator God. To each of God's children, we the sovereign citizens, the unanimous Declaration of the 13 United States of America, hereafter the Declaration of Independence or Declaration, clearly states the following concepts. People create governments. Since the created owe their existence to the Creator, governments must be accountable to and serve at the pleasure of the sovereign citizens. Should governments become tyrannical, should they unduly burden and enslave, the Declaration clearly explains that it is the duty of the citizens to see that such government is altered or abolished. The Declaration states that this is not just an option, but it is a prerogative and solemn duty of the sovereign citizen. In delivering the lead opinion of the Supreme Court in Yick Wo versus Hopkins, 118 U.S. 356, 370, 1886, Justice Matthews wrote, "Sovereignty itself is, of course, not subject to law, for it is the author and source of law. But in our system, while sovereign powers are delegated to the agencies of government, sovereignty itself remains with the people, by whom and for whom all government exists and acts. We, the people, are the sovereigns, and we receive our rights from God, the Creator, and then we created constitutions to form our limited governments. With that same authority and responsibility from our Creator, we, the sovereigns, have created the United States Constitution Rangers to watch over our creations, governments. The Rangers protect and defend the Constitution, Republic of the United States of America, hereafter the Republic, and ensure that government servants comply with the Constitution for the United States of America, hereafter the Constitution, the highest law of the land. Article 6, Section 2. Sovereign citizen Lawrence Robertson reorganized the Rangers to defend the Republic and the citizens of the United States of America, hereafter citizens, with the aid of Congressman Eldon Rudd. The Charter of the Rangers was recorded in the Library of Congress in 1980. Copyright registration number TXU 42-453, establishing the Rangers as an organization created by sovereigns to police the offices of public trust. Rangers are sworn to protect and serve the constitutional republics of the several states, the constitutional republic of the United States of America and the citizens thereof. The jurisdiction of the Rangers include all 50 states of the Union. Rangers pledge to defend our republican form of government provided by the constitutions, to protect the rights of the citizens as granted by God, the Creator, and as enumerated in the original Bill of Rights. When called upon by the citizens, the Rangers aid in the defense of their rights as officers of peace. Isaiah 60:17. The purpose of the Rangers is to remind all citizens that the Constitution for the United States of America is the supreme law of the land, and to investigate and expose that which is repugnant to our constitutions. Rangers promote the original meaning and intent of the original Bill of Rights and work to restore public awareness that the constitutions limit the size, power, and scope of governments. Rangers seek to hold government servants accountable to their oaths of office. The Rangers' office is an office of honor, with the inherent power and authority of policing the created governments, and must be respected as a legitimate and lawful investigatory body. Rangers are not law enforcement agents per se. When corruption is found, when an unalienable constitutional right is violated, or when an oath of office is ignored or violated, the Rangers will inform the public and other bodies, including but not limited to district attorneys, U.S. attorneys, sheriffs, and other government servants responsible for investigating and or correcting such matters. If these agencies fail to act swiftly and appropriately, or are themselves in violation of their prescribed charter, the Rangers will act within our powers to lawfully correct the problem. Our governments only exist to serve its creator, the people, not to prey upon its creator or to serve themselves. Government servants must act lawfully. They may not unduly enrich themselves or their offices to the detriment of citizens. They may not unlawfully act to expand the powers of their administrative, executive, legislative, or judicial roles. Since unlawful acts by government servants are rampant, the Rangers are needed now more than ever to expose threats of life, liberty, and property. The God-given unalienable rights of life, liberty, and property are the birthright and inheritance of citizens from our Creator and are guaranteed to citizens by our constitutions. These rights precede and are superior to government. These rights are not subservient to any actions by any government agent, servant, or functionary. These concepts are all clearly defined in law and supported by Supreme Court rulings, too numerous to mention here. The Rangers are not supported by any government budget, and this allows complete independence from financial conflicts of interest and corruption. Reported violations will be investigated with the highest standards of fairness, impartiality, and credibility and integrity. Every Ranger has been commissioned by the Rangers and taken an oath to uphold and defend the Constitution from all enemies, both foreign and domestic. Rangers may be recognized by their uniforms, badges, and or identification cards, all of which bear the logo and name of the United States Constitution Rangers. This 3-page document satisfies our legal requirement to notify you, our servants. It is necessary that you inform us in writing if you have any questions or concerns relating to this administrative and public notice. If we do not receive a written response from you within 30 days, we shall presume your recognition and acceptance of this notice, and dissemination of its contents to your subordinates and any other interested parties over which you may have influence. We recommend that this notice be posted on bulletin boards and wherever your policy requires. The Ranger welcomes the opportunity to speak with public or government agencies for training purposes. Questions or concerns regarding the United States Constitution Rangers and or this notice should be directed to United States Constitution Rangers, 27 Glen Road, West Lebanon, New Hampshire, 03784. Telephone 800-254-9581. Email uscommander@uscrangers.org. It's signed Edward Lewis Brown. All right. Looks like we got a commander's address, and I'll read that as well. Ranger. With the best intentions of heart, mind, spirit, and honor, we present to you the United States Constitution Rangers. The United States Constitution Rangers is a chartered organization of peace officers defending the Constitution and the people of the United States Republic with a history back to the country's formation. A new charter was accepted by Congress in 1980, reestablishing the USC Ranger Charter, registration number TXU 42-453 with charter number 37817. Growing numbers of Americans have lost their confidence and faith in the administrators within our government and have decided to prepare to protect the United States of America from any conflict against any and all enemies, both foreign and domestic. The organization, therefore, among other efforts, shall investigate citizen complaints regarding constitutional violation by public officials and administrative agencies and make recommendations and reports to Congress, district attorneys, and other interested parties, along with taking any and all lawful actions available to it. The USC Rangers, as should all good Americans and God-loving people everywhere, stand on center of all things and keep a check and balance on the extremes. We have no known enemies and will take no sides, save one exception. We will protect and defend the Constitution, republics. I can't read that next word. The United States of America against all her enemies, and the people thereof under God. We will abide by the original organic Constitution and Bill of Rights, contracts as the several states and of the United States of America, all republics under one God. We will ignore, as law dictates, any laws or orders that violate these constitutions and their corresponding Bill of Rights, including any revised laws, statutes, treaties, regulations, etc. that violate these supreme laws of the land. We will in good faith and brotherly love notify anyone that violates the lawful supreme laws of the states and nation and give them the opportunity to correct the errors in a timely manner. If they do not, they will be charged accordingly at law and under the lawful law of the land. All Rangers are living souls and should learn and understand the difference between themselves and others designated as persons. You are the created of the one God, creator of all, not the creatures of the state or of statute. All United States Constitution Rangers will endeavor to be proficient in their understanding of the Constitution of the United States of America, its Bill of Rights, along with the Constitution for the state of which one inhabits. Rangers will educate others whenever possible to the best of their ability. All United States Constitution Rangers will always appear in public in a clean, neat, and appropriate manner. Rangers will be polite and respectful to all parties in every situation. Rangers shall keep the peace and aid and work with any lawful law enforcement officers, county sheriffs, police, or police officers whenever possible or needing assistance. Thank you and welcome aboard. Edward Lewis Brown, Commander, United States Constitution Rangers, United States Constitution Ranger Handbook. This appears to be some sort of article called More American Injustice, Ed and Elaine Brown Deception. This was written on July the 14th, 2009. I had the pleasure of being a guest on a radio show hosted in part by Elaine Brown. I found her to be intelligent and engaging. This was, of course, a couple of years ago, just before federal agents arrested the Browns for pointing out to all of us the inherent immorality of extorting money from honest folk. I mean, for tax evasion. In addition to being quite a gracious host, she struck me as being extremely intelligent, principled, and peaceful. I very much enjoyed speaking with her. Miss Brown articulated quite well that she believed herself to be a free person and that she wanted to rid herself of the ties that bind us all to the behemoth known as the federal government. It is well known that she was protesting the way the federal government goes about its business and how their actions demonstrate that those in power have been elevated to the status of masters of the populace. Indeed, if people are not allowed to peacefully withhold their funding and withdraw their consent without fear of retribution, how are they supposed to voice their grievances and concerns in a meaningful way? From election fraud and improprieties, improprietaries. I'm having a real hard time with that word. You guys know what I mean. To wars and foreign entanglements, to use the money of the middle class to bail out the elite, and the unwillingness of the Senate to audit the Federal Reserve. Time and time again, the voices of the people have been ignored when they have used the prescribed system set up by the government bodies, and the grievances expressed have not been redressed as supposedly guaranteed by the Constitution of the United States. In October of 2007, the Browns were kidnapped from their home by federal agents. They then began serving their sentences in federal prison for crimes they had been convicted of in absentia. These were victimless crimes, as no fellow human was physically harmed and nobody's property was stolen or damaged. Whether or not these so-called crimes should even be considered crimes is the subject of much debate. Although those in power would like us all to believe that this is not so, the Browns were sentenced to 5 years in prison because they had the audacity to question the system and attempt to do something about it. But this was not enough for the feds. They had to break the Browns' spirit and try to squelch the message that the Browns were attempting to send to the masses. Originally, Ed and Elaine Brown had planned on seeing their trial through. They had planned on using several different arguments in their defense. They had prepared many arguments meant to explain why they were doing what they were doing and why they had the right to take such such actions. The judge in the case denied the Browns the ability to use any such defense in their case. It was at this point that the Browns decided that the system was rigged and that they had no other option but to step outside of the system, to withdraw their consent if their message was to be heard. Their crime wasn't so much that they didn't pay their taxes, that they didn't show up to their appointed court date. It was that they dared to disobey, to question authority, and to stand up for their individual rights and to claim their freedom. This type of behavior very much frightens the federal authorities when it occurs. They feel the necessity to crack down exceptionally hard. Last week, the Browns were once again dragged into court and tried on different charges related more to the standoff that happened as a result of the government actions than the original charges the Browns were arrested for. The charges were for such things as weapons violations and threatening or trying to intimidate federal agents. I'm not sure about anyone else, but to me, federal agents, especially when gathered in large groups, are far more intimidating than an old retired gentleman holed up in his house. Yet the federal government felt they had to make an example of the Browns. They had to show the people who is in charge. They want you to know without a shadow of a doubt, if you disobey their dictates and refuse to go along with their demands, no matter your reasoning, no matter how much support you've garnered, no matter the constitutionality of your argument, you will be harshly punished. They are big, strong, and possess the guns and power, and you are weak, puny, and insignificant. The most heinous of crimes in the eyes of those in power are the crimes of disobedience to the state and questioning their authority. While it may be true that Ed Brown may have made some statements and accusations that seem a bit outlandish and threatening to some, it seems to me that he was only trying to express his desire to defend himself, his loved ones, and his property. He did not actually harm anyone. He did not initiate any violence against any person or group of persons. He did not go out looking for trouble, but merely stayed on his property and challenged the feds to come after him. Unfortunately, federal agents don't take kindly to having their authority challenged and would rather risk their lives, the lives of their men, and the lives of innocent people, apprehending someone who has merely brought into question their legitimacy, rather than just leaving well enough alone and allowing people to live as freemen and keep the fruits of their labor. The latest trial was nothing but a show trial, in an effort to show those who would try to protest taxes and their enslavement to the federal government that those in power mean business. The same kind of thing was happening in the 18th century when the British would arrest American colonists for similar victimless crimes and protest. The Browns were assigned lawyers that are beholden to the system, as all lawyers are. They have no money to hire their own because the government took it all. Even if they did, how can anyone expect to get a fair trial challenging the authority of the government when everyone involved with the justice system has a vested interest in making certain the government's veneer of legitimacy is maintained? Those involved with prosecuting the Browns have tried to paint them as dangerous. I don't believe that Elaine Brown was a danger to anyone, and the only people who Ed Brown may have been dangerous to are the ones who threatened him in the first place. The federal government's legitimacy is crumbling. They have stepped far outside their mandates and pride themselves into the business of the people where they don't belong. They have stepped outside the bounds of their constitutional authority to the point which some have even started to question the legitimacy of that document in terms of human freedom. The courts may be able to bully individuals like the Browns and silence them, but there are many questions left unanswered and many grievances that have yet to be redressed. Sooner or later, the concerns must be addressed by those who wish to exert control over the masses, as the inherent intrusions upon our freedoms created by these issues become more obvious for any thoughtful human to see. Throwing people in prison for tax violations is not a proper reaction to a request for clarification. The courts in this nation were supposed to be set up to protect the individual from the powerful. It has not worked out that way. It seems to me that the courts have become more interested in supporting the state than defending individuals against it. Cases like this one, where the Browns question the legitimacy of the tax code, should be seen as an opportunity to forge new frontiers into issues concerning individual freedom. Instead, they uphold practices that laud state power over the individual and a system that reflects more a collective mindset than that of an individualist or a voluntary type society envisioned by this nation's founding fathers. One can only hope that such cases help bring these issues to light, regardless of how the state would like to keep us in the dark over such matters. That was a very good article. Okay, this is the last page of this particular scan. Subject, Saga of Ed and Elaine Brown. Saga of Edward and Elaine Brown addressing the court of public opinion. We, too, sentient free will men, man and woman, as Edward Lewis and Elaine Alice of the clan of Brown, with the most honorable intent, present this true and complete, correct affidavit of record of torture to the best of our knowledge and good character of our spiritual belief, that in the year 1994 we made a conscious decision to challenge the Internal Revenue Service related to the income tax being applied to an American man or woman when we could not find a law that required said man or woman contribute/pay a federal income tax. We spent the next 2 years communicating with the Internal Revenue Service trying to get them to comply with the question, will you please show us where we are required to pay the federal income tax? The silence was palpable. The IRS refused to answer any presentments we sent them or telephone calls we attempted. Then the rest of the letter had the saga of Elaine Brown. Matter of fact, my wife, it's 39 pages, and my wife read that into YouTube. It's called The Saga of Ed and Elaine Brown. The Saga of Ed and Elaine Brown by Ed and Elaine Brown. It's 2 hours and 31 minutes long. So that was included in the letter. I'm not going to read it again because my wife has already read it. It's 2 hours and 31 minutes. Also, the letter at the very end included a Concord Monitor newspaper article. Okay, and it's a newspaper article story about what happened to Ed and Elaine Brown. It was written on June the 8th of 2007, I believe. I've already read that into YouTube. It took me 9 minutes and 56 seconds, so there's no point in me rereading that again. So that concludes the entire letter that we received yesterday. I've just read the entire thing into YouTube. As I get time, it appears that Ed Brown wants me to send a copy of this off to certified mail return receipt to the President of the United States, as well as the new Attorney General Sessions, and I will try to do that. It might take me a week or so. I don't know when I'll get time, but I'll have to make a copy of it because I want to keep the original copy, and then I'll have to mail a copy off to the President and to the Attorney Sessions. So this is their mailing address, Edward Brown, Elaine Brown. You can tell they're very serious about what their belief system. They're so serious that they forfeited their entire comfortable lives. They could have just lived comfortably. They were very well off financially, but instead they chose to stand up for principle and their belief system, and now they've been sentenced to death by prison. So if they're going to spend the rest of their lives fighting for freedom, what they believe in, then, my question to you is, can you write them a letter? Just write them a letter and tell them you care about them, you haven't forgotten about them, you think that, write something encouraging. There's no victims in their case, right? They didn't harm anybody and they didn't steal anything from anybody, and yet they're spending the rest of their life in prison. It's absolutely horrific. So, anyway, that's it. God bless, take care, and have a great day.